So hello, Kai, Andre, and Thomas, and everyone who's listening to the recording. I'm going to share my screen, and I've wrote a little tiny blog post about how to write a blog post. And our snippets are not that great for long form. I can't stretch it, but I'll be scrolling through it. So what I've done and what I wanted to share is I wrote a few GitLab blog posts, and I know a little bit about the process and what it takes. And I think it's relatively simple to write a blog post. I think it takes around 12 hours. So not trivial, but it is doable if you space the time and don't leave it for the paper, and leave it. If you space it and don't leave it for like the 2 days before the deadline, it's absolutely doable. And the editor or the content team is going to help you with the final edit. So you don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect when it goes to the first review. And so I think it's really doable, and I think that it helps you with writing in general, because I guess after you write something like that, you get tempted to read a little bit more about grammar rules, at least I did, and about how to write more clearly. So later in that article, I'm sharing some tips and tricks to courses on LinkedIn and books. But I also think that it's great that it gives you a sense of achievement, and I'm mentioning it somewhere here. Sense of accomplishment. Like when I finish a feature, it doesn't make me, or depends on a feature, but like a usual feature that I finish in 12 hours doesn't make me as proud or like excited as when I write a blog post. So I think like for bang for a buck, or how you say it in English, it's pretty good for a blog post, because it's pretty much guaranteed that if you spend the effort and polish a blog post, that you are going to enjoy it and think happy thoughts back to the time when you published it and when you didn't have to write it anymore. And on a vain note, I have a personal blog, but it's never getting the numbers like I don't know, around 10 to 50,000 views as the GitLab does. So if you want to have a big audience, it's also good to write a blog post for our blog. It used to be really easy back in a day to publish a blog post, because you could just start writing whatever topic interests you, and you could have published it as unfiltered. Worst case scenario as unfiltered, which was a different section in our blog. We discontinued that a year ago, and so now the process is that you have to first start with a pitch. And I mentioned here, there is a process here. You can click on the link. Everybody's got the invite, or I'll post this snippet link in the Zoom chat, and I'm also going to put it in the YouTube description. So you can click on this link, and it describes the process around how to write a pitch. And pretty much you create an issue in our www.gitlab.com project, and you say, I would like to write about this, and you get a blessing from the content team. They are, with engineering topics, they are very welcoming of any topic. So I think that as long as it's not something super specific to you only, and it's something that you can imagine that helps other people, it's gonna get thumbs up, and you can write the post. Once you submit the pitch, you get a deadline. You get usually about a month in advance, and that's usually, you think, oh, I've got plenty of time, and then 2 or 3 days before the deadline, you really get on to writing that blog post. At least that's how most of mine ended up. And what else? Some drawbacks. I think that's the drawback. If you are like me, you are going to stress a little bit towards the release date. That's the only drawback that I can think of. Unless you hate writing, then that would be a drawback as well. So it might be hard to come up with a topic. So I was thinking, and I put it here as a get ready for the live session. Like now for the performance review, you are supposed to mention 3 things that you are really, really proud of in the last half a year that you've done, that you think you've done well. I think at least one of them could be a good candidate to, like, if you are proud of something, you learn something and it could be useful for other people. Maybe that could be your first topic. But here I mentioned 3, and if I'll open them, it's getting started with Python. It's about, I don't know, 30 paragraphs, maybe 20 paragraphs. It's doable. If you have an engineering topic like that, installing GitLab on Raspberry, it doesn't have to be like something like, imagine like some amazing article about how somebody re-architected their whole unicorn architecture. You don't have to do that. It's much simpler than that. Tips. Okay. I use Grammarly, even though I think today I was facing some issues with expensing it. I think that there is a new policy. You have to get it pre-approved. Back in the day, it was okay. You just paid for Grammarly and got it approved. But nowadays, software subscriptions are not approved by default. So you need to get it approved, not from your manager, but from the team, procurement team beforehand. Otherwise, you might not get it expensed. And this is an amazing book. I don't know if you've heard about it, read it, but it's a very digestible, all the tips, each tip you can read in about 5 minutes. And Gary is really good author. He makes it really fun to read. He says, tip number 1, I think, it's like you need to make people like you. Then it's going to be much easier to get the message across. And he does such a good job of it. Like you like him since the first few paragraphs, and it's fun read. I think I know where the pages are here. 158 pages. You can read it in a couple afternoons. I really recommend it. It's got a good tips and really applicable. There is a technical writing that's not necessarily good for, not necessarily the same as writing blog posts. Technical writing is a little bit more dry, a little bit more trying to make sure that every term is defined and everything makes perfect sense. And it's more important than the form, but still, it's a good course. Technical writers in GitLab recommend it, and I've done it. It's really nice. Learning how to write for the web. It's pretty much a course on LinkedIn that's trying to tell you that people have very short attention spans on the internet, and it's giving you tips of like don't try to hide like your punchline to the end, because nobody's going to have the patience to wait till the end. So just give the punchline away first thing, so people know whether they want to read the rest or not, and use as many bullet points as possible so people can scan the content and stuff like that. It's really interesting. It's a little bit sad, but it draws the consumer of your article as someone who's going to be at the same time looking through Instagram and Facebook and I don't know what else. So it gives you tips how to keep their attention. And there is a very short essay from Paul Graham, Write Like You Talk, which really helped me. I think I had a set of like a vocabulary for writing and vocabulary for speaking, and those sets were overlapping, but they weren't the same. I was trying to be a little bit more pompous when writing, and the essay is really quick read and explains pretty clearly why you should pretty much be able to just write as if you were telling it to your friend, just with the little bit the benefit of being able to polish it a little bit later. So those are my tips. That's pretty much everything I wanted to say in that article. And I would open this for discussion. If you have any questions about the process that I could help with, any comment, I'd be interested to hear it.
Tomasz, I dropped the link for Google Doc in the chat, and you have some questions there.
Here we go. Without, yes, there is a, Paul is asking whether there you can pitch without having the topic. Is that correct? Like, is it that
Yes.
you?
The intention would be, if I wish there was a blog post written about something, I could pitch that topic, and maybe someone else could pick it up.
Yeah,
that would be
yes. I've one of the posts that I've done for the VS Code, that was exactly that. Somebody pitched a topic about VS Code, and I wrote a blog post for it. I didn't came up with that idea, so you can totally do that.
Where do those pitches live?
They live in I'm gonna show you. So posts I've wrote. This is that's the post. I wonder where are the issues. I thought that I linked the issues, but if I haven't, I haven't.
So I guess
here we go.
Oh, cool.
So they live in the www.gitlab.com project, and there is, I think, special template for an issue called pitch. I'm looking. Here we go. This would be the pitch.
So you could possibly look for all issues with the label blog post.
I think so.
Okay.
There's a blog pitch label.
Okay.
Do they have to be time boxed? Because I see this says November. Can you just?
Or you don't have to time box them. That's the content team does that. They say this. They have some editorial, and they say, "Oh, we have an empty spot in a month where we don't have enough engineering content, so we'll squeeze it in there." I'm looking whether there is the blog post, I guess. Apply template.
Okay.
Yeah, and the label that gets applied is blog pitch. You can have a look for those.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, the other thought was that's really nice and concise snippet about writing a blog post. Do we want to make it a blog post about writing a blog post? That way you blog post while you blog post.
That was my original idea, but then I saw the deprecation of unfiltered, and this would be like the perfect thing for unfiltered. So it would either, this kind of topic, I imagine, would either go to handbook, but for handbook, it's not structured enough, or it would go to the unfiltered, where you can just talk
I
about.
so want it to be a blog post. All right.
Me too. Me too.
You should pitch it.
I can buy a domain how to write a GitLab post and create a static site.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, the next, I had a question for you, Tomasz. So I think one of the hardest things for somebody who hasn't done this before is, okay, I have an idea, I know the knowledge. How do I put it on the page? How do I get from the point of having the idea to get to a first draft? Like, what's your process there? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I know what the process should be, what the books say, and that should be that you think about the audience, about their skill level, and like where they are at, and then think about what would you like the takeaway to be from the message that you are going to give them, and work towards it. Then you can usually make a bullet point of like what route you would like to take them through. But for me, I usually just I'll do a brain dump, and I'm just writing one paragraph after another, not filtering myself, not editing. Maybe sometimes I do first bullet points, like the main things that I would like to get across, and then I start writing under each one of them. It's when you write like 3 pages of this completely unusable, unfiltered content, it gives you kind of confidence that like you'll get that there is going to be enough to talk about. I wish I would be more structured about it. And all the authors, especially technical writers, they say that the audience is the most important thing that you have to have in your head, to think about who are you talking to and how are you helping them. But I haven't gotten to that point yet. So I usually just create a bullet list of points, what I would like to say, and then I just write and write and write.
Sounds like you have a born talent for it, because the common mortal, like we have to probably follow the outline of the bullet points and then expand those. But yeah, thanks for the overview. Go, Paul.
So this is unrelated to my previous question, but how should someone decide if something should live in the handbook versus a blog post?
Gotcha. Well, so when I decided not to post how to write a GitLab blog post as a blog post on our blog, I imagine like what is the content team trying to achieve with our blog, and it's mainly just help. A lot of the content is GitLab related, how you install GitLab, how you do this and that in GitLab, and the rest of the engineering content is just like help articles, or explaining how we did some design decision. And I was thinking, this doesn't really seem like it would drive the traffic that we are looking for in our Git. So on the topic of this particular article, I can create a pitch and see whether content team will like it or not. Like, that's not going to cost me more than a few minutes of time, and maybe I'm wrong with classifying this as a snippet. But otherwise, I would just imagine, like, if it helps people outside of GitLab, it should go in the blog post, I think.
That's a good distinguisher, because I was thinking of, like, we have a number of like developer guidelines. A lot of them are kind of the rules we choose to follow. So that makes sense. That's not really a blog post. This goes in the handbook. Some of them are like troubleshooting. And that's where there might be a gray area of, but I also think of, hey, it's probably easier to find for our team to find things in the handbook.
For sure.
And so there's also the why not both, like if something is super applicable in that way too. So that's interesting. I like that though, thinking like if it helps people beyond GitLab, you should consider a blog post. Would be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you. Before we finish, did anyone have a topic that they would like to pitch here, and then they can use what I call commitment-driven writing? You know, once you commit to your page, then you just have to do it. So, anyone wants to say something interesting they did in the last half a year?
How to take a parental leave. I can write that.
That can actually, we have like lifestyle or life work balance blog posts. So that doesn't sound that unrealistic.
See,
Andrew.
That's a great example, actually, now that I think of it, because we did put a fallback manager, like an acting EM in place. And that process for some companies might not be clear and might not be as structured as it is with us. So I might have just accidentally put myself up for a pitch. So.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming here. I'm going to post this on YouTube. Share it, like it, subscribe, and I'll see
smash that like button.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really helps the channel. I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tomasz.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.